Alrighty, y'all, welcome back to the channel. We're back on the internet together again today. A bit of a different one. We're mixing it up over here on this channel. Today's video, we're heading over to China. This guy's 40, but still single. Why he's given up on marriage. Let's jump in, and as always, you'll see the original linked in the video description.
Seeing all these people in front of you, what do you think they are doing? Actually, they are all here, looking for marriage partners for their children, younger relatives, or even their clients.
Very transactional, at least they're honest about it though. I dare say most people could say that marriage is blatantly a transaction, or get detractors, or get people saying, GMAN, you're a bitter, crusty dude. What I'm trying to tell you is you will find out just how much of a transaction it is on the other end of it. If things don't work out, things go pear-shaped. That's why you've got family court. That's why you've got family lawyers making billions of dollars a year in that industry in Australia, let alone who knows how much they're making over in the US and other parts of the world. Everyone's fighting over money. Everyone wants to get as much as they can out of the other person. Very transactional, isn't it?
Here, behind every single piece of paper, is a person who desperately needs to get married. The paper
has all their stats on it, so it's got all their personal information. There was a piece of paper that was just down the bottom end of the screen there, and it had like the weight and height and all that sort of stuff on it, which I just caught a glance at. Haven't they heard of dating apps? They're putting pieces of paper around. Maybe it's different. Surely they've got dating apps over in China. But from what I understand, and from the interactions I've had from Chinese people, even Australian-born Chinese who are still linked to their heritage, money makes a big element of someone being seen or deemed as a suitable marriage partner, should you say, especially from the male perspective. It's all about if the guy has the house and he can provide and all that sort of stuff. One other thing that I've noticed as well, even from, as I said, Australian-born Chinese women that I know that I've come across in my working life in the corporate world, very material when it comes to the wedding. The wedding's this huge spectacle. Surely can't afford it. I'm talking six figures here, with obviously low six figures, the one in front of it, but a shitload of money for one day. Then you got, which parents pay for, by the way, 100 grand or more in a day. The wedding rings and engagement rings need to be very ostentatious. What I said. Now, obviously, I can't speak for everyone, but it's just from what I have seen. It's all about the dollars, and then there's dowries or marriage prices and all this sort of stuff that you see in similar videos to this that men need to pay to get access to potentially get married. It's all about the dollar bucks. It's all about the yen.
Details their personal information along with their requirements or expectations for a future partner. In present-day China, whether in big cities or small ones, a deeply fractured scene is playing out everywhere. In the parks, it's crowded with anxious parents holding up matchmaking signs, searching for marriage partners for their children every single day. On the other hand,
So what I find interesting here, so are these people trying to sell sons? I could understand that. It's pretty tough for a guy out there to get a girl on the hook at the best times, let alone where we are in the world with all technology and options that many women have at their fingertips. The illusion of choice, of infinite choice. Well, you've got women here as well being spruiked off. It's a big question is, are they leaving it too late, or are the standards too high? Most likely, probably the standards through the roof, I would dare say. Standards through the roof. We've seen, as I said, I've watched a few of these other sort of Chinese sort of unfiltered or uncovered videos or uncensored, whatever they call it, China Uncensored or whatever. And yeah, the requirements are just astronomical to the point where most of the local men in China can't meet them and therefore can't be married. But I think to myself, that's doing you a favour, mate. You're going on to the life of servitude and financial slavery, paying out all your net worth for someone who's probably going to end up a liability at some point.
The young people whom these parents are trying to match sit quietly in office cubicles or in their rented rooms after work, displaying an astonishing indifference toward the idea of marriage.
It's like being down
This
a local
is the
market.
cruel reality facing China today. Young people simply don't want to get married, and they don't want to have children too.
I think this goes for a lot of people across the world. I'll dare say there are probably two elements to this. Yes, it's expensive. People are second thinking that whole process in life. They're looking about the way the world's going. They're thinking, do I want to bring a kid into this world? Then I'll dare say as well, most men are invisible to the majority of women. Women are looking for something a lot of the time that doesn't exist, or for a very small fractional of a percentage kind of guy to come along and sweep them off their feet. Mr. Perfect isn't coming. Mr. Perfect isn't coming to knock on your door. And then that's why you get all these, women 30 plus that have sort of missed the boat when it comes to being prime age for marriage in these countries, screaming about trying to find a guy.
In traditional Chinese thinking, getting married and having children before the age of 30 is a mandatory stage in life, an absolute requirement that no one is exempt from. If you haven't gone through this process, or if you are still unmarried and childless after 30, you are considered an abnormal outlier.
That's brutal, but it's the truth, right? They're very true. I guess very transparent over in China. It's ruthless. Like, women over 30 are seen as like absolutely barren. You don't have a purpose, more or less. You're very undesirable for marriage. And then on the other side of that, you got men who aren't financially seen as adequate. They're seen as just unmarriageable as well, right? They're the male equivalent of that, economically non-attractive in any way. As I said, money is a huge thing over in China, in that culture, and I'll dare say it's like that just across the world, but less transparent. But I'll give them that. Like they're brutally honest over there and highly transactional, and at least you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting here. They're like down the local fish market, local fresh produce market, bartering for people. Cooked.
Perhaps you are too poor to afford the responsibilities of raising a family, or maybe you have severe health issues. In short, it is deemed abnormal. However, over the past decade, the phenomenon of young Chinese people opting out of marriage and childbirth has become increasingly common. Nowadays, many of those making the choice to not marry, not have kids.
I think that's happening more a lot in the West too. A lot of people are seeing the dangers of that. When I say people, I'm saying men are seeing the dangers of marriage, and probably some women as well who don't want to have that lifestyle. Then you got the kids thing. I think a lot of people would love to have kids or want kids, but they are once again struggling with looking at the world the way it's going. You yourself as a potential parent probably might be struggling with rent or can't get a rental, or you don't feel secure in your living situation. Then you've got to even be trying to buy one, let alone buy one and have some security for your family. Very, very difficult unless you're earning, top dollar, or you've got two very strong, solid incomes. So you're going, you know what? I can't even feel confident in myself, let alone caring for a kid, and then also having optimism that my future unborn child here could actually have a good quality of life. Now, yes, there are a lot of people having kids who don't think about these things. Lower socioeconomic groups, I just sort of spit them out. That's just statistics here. I'm not saying they're lower intelligence. They don't really consider this stuff. A lot of the time, they're also propped up by the government. But in saying that, you got women who are very career focused, and they don't want to put down the career to have the kid, or they'll go part time. as well. So it's all personal choice too. And the thing is too, even if you do want to go and do that, either the husband or the wife, depending on how you want to run your household, one of them has reduced hours, looking after a kid, you still got to put him in childcare, and that's very, very expensive. It's eating up a large chunk of your budget. So you're thinking, is it worth it? Now, I guess a lot of people would say yes, but I could also see the argument for no.
Are actually well-educated young people with decent jobs and fairly good incomes. It's not that they lack the ability to start a family. Rather, they are actively choosing to give up on marriage and the traditional mandatory stages of life. Today, this is no longer just an issue for a certain few. It has become a social issue, impacting economic development. The number of marriage registrations in China has been declining for 10 consecutive years, and the age of first marriage continues to be pushed back. In many large cities, the average age for first marriage is now approaching or even exceeding 32. The birth rate has also dropped to a historic low. In fact, many maternity hospitals have been forced to shut down due to a lack of expectant mothers.
There you go. Do they still have that one child policy, or if there are more women than men? Oh, sorry, more female babies born than male babies. If you had a boy, you could have another one, but if you had a girl, you could. I can't understand how it works. Someone correct me. I'm just going off memory here. Didn't do my research, obviously. I'm not your, expert foreign Chinese correspondent here, but I do find this very interesting because I actually got to respect just how transparent and straight up they are with the societal expectations. So what's driving a big wedge at the moment is things are more expensive. So people aren't feeling secure enough to want to go and do these things in their 20s. Okay, my parents, back in the late 70s, they were early 20s when I married and had myself and my siblings. I can't even contemplate a 21-year-old having married, have a house, and having some kids at this day and age. Completely impossible. Still living at home, playing Skyrim. Still living at home, just not even having $2 to rub together, or having any optimism that hard work and working extra and having 2 and 3 jobs and side hustling and all that is going to result in having a good future. That's the attitude at the moment. I said things are expensive, i.e. property. That's why most people work. You want to have a house of your own, or a house that's owned by the bank. That the illusion is that it's yours. It very soon won't be yours if you can't pay your mortgage. However, if that dream, if that isn't there, people are going, you know what, I'm just going to go and travel. I'm going to go and piss my money up against the wall. I'm going to get that car that I want. I'm going to buy the clothes that I want. I'm going to go and eat out. I'm going to go get pissed with my mates, because what's the point in trying to knuckle down? That's how I can see 20-year-olds thinking these days. And I actually don't blame them. Do I think it's the right thing to do? Probably not. But horses for courses. Everyone makes their own decisions. I think those are probably some of the most important years of your life to get started on the right track, because there's obviously compounding interest of the opportunity cost of those decisions when you're young. But I can see a lot of people just not even caring about that anymore.
And numerous kindergartens have closed because there aren't enough children to enroll. As a result, a large number of doctors, nurses, and teachers have lost their jobs. Therefore, this has long ceased to be the individual choice of a few rebellious youths. Rather, it is a massive, silent, collective retreat from marriage. What on earth happened? Why don't young Chinese people want to get married and have kids anymore? Actually, it's not that young people in China have suddenly lost interest in love and children. It's that they realized, under the current environment for survival, the cost of maintaining a family is exceeding the limits of what ordinary people can bear. Most young people in China today are only children without siblings. If you marry and have a child, it means that after marriage, the two young people must not only care for four aging parents, but also raise the next generation.
See, that's one thing I didn't consider as well. Yeah, so culturally, it's expected that, yeah, you look after the parents in their retirement. You fund them, they raised you. The expectation that goes around in a lot of these cultures is that you are going to be... Look, this is a reality. It is a burden. It's a burden on you to be a carer and financial provider for aging parents. It's a burden. It might be a burden that you might want and that you're fine with, but it's a burden. It costs money. It costs effort. So on top of having children, you've got to look after people getting towards end of life. But in saying that, I've heard of some cultures as well where what will happen is the parents will downsize or they'll sell a house. They'll give a bunch of money to the children, to the child, who's going to be looking after them. They buy a bigger house, they put everyone in it, and then when those parents die, that's the inheritance, right? Front loaded. They've got the house. Makes sense to me. I think that's the way it's going to go, especially in Australia. I think it's going to be multi-generational households. It's going to be the norm. It isn't going to be a Chinese or Indian thing. It's going to be what Australians are going to have to do to bloody survive.
This family structure is like massive leverage. The slightest disturbance, such as unemployment or illness, will cause the entire family's financial situation to face collapse. In China, marriage is not as simple as two people getting a certificate and living together. It is a game of asset restructuring between two families. Housing is the first insurmountable hurdle. In today's China, without a house of your own, a young man is virtually automatically disqualified from the marriage market. Take my current situation, for example. When I was 30, I didn't own a house, which made getting married very difficult. Now, I am 40 years old, and I still haven't bought a house of my own.
This even happens in Australia, right? So you'll be on a dating app. So I'm talking from the male experience here. For those of you who want to see my male experience content, my channels are all listed in the video description and pinned comment. If that's your kettle of fish, I dare say the women watching here aren't going to want to hear what I have to say over there. However, let's just talk quickly about the male experience locally. So you're going to get on a dating app. One of the first things you're going to be asked is, what do you do for work? How long have you been working there? What did you study? All the sort of things that someone can put together to work out roughly how much you make. You know, they can even do a quick Google. You'll get a sort of a banding to work out how much you make. Then you'll be asked, do you rent? Who do you live with? Do you rent or do you own? All this sort of stuff. So people are just trying to build a very quick financial profile of you to work out, are you worth pursuing? So it's all transactional. It's just the Chinese are a lot more honest about it. Because as I said at the start of this video, anyone who's going to be on this, male or female, anyone who's going to be commenting on this video and telling me that I'm too caught up on money and I'm too caught up on saying things are transactional, when you go through a divorce, it's a business liquidation. Okay, the administrators are in, the lawyers, and they're working out how to either A, restructure and keep it a going concern, i.e. who's going to keep what, can houses be kept, can things be done, or alternatively it's a liquidation event, fire sale, i.e. the guy most of the time losing a lion's share of the money. That's just the reality of what happens. You can come at me all you want, but that is just the truth.
Marriage is no longer a possibility for me. Even though I might be able to save enough money to buy a house in a few more years, by then it will simply be too late. This often means that for a young couple to get married, they need to drain the life savings of both sets of parents just to...
That's what I was talking about. For one day. And I went to I went to a wedding, Australian-born Chinese. However, the parents were Chinese migrants. They ran a news agency, so they weren't bloody drowning in money. You know, they're working 24 hours a day in the bloody thing, operating at 7 days a week. Okay, 24 hours is a bit of an exaggeration, but running your own business, as anyone would know who's done it, is a very time-consuming affair. All right, I dare say a news agency is not making mega bucks. But that's my limited understanding of that business. So migrant parents, not tertiary educated, running a newspaper, news agency, had to shell out over $100,000. Right, this wedding was at a castle. This was in Geelong. So anyone who knows Victoria and Geelong is a more regional area, I guess you'd call it sub-regional. They had some castle there. I can't remember what it was called. And so for the one day, and they had very ostentatious displays of wealth and all that sort of thing. It more or less would have wiped out years and years of savings of the parents. And I was just thinking to myself, yeah, nice day and everything. Really? All this money for this? But they got the family there, they get the friends there. It's also the family signifying their wealth and keeping up with the Joneses when they don't have to. But yeah, I can't understand people spending now over $100,000 on weddings. I dare say, who knows what the average wedding would cost? I got married a long time ago, and it was about $50,000, $45,000, I'd say, well over 10 years ago. So, and that was trying to keep it relatively reined in. Trying to manage expectations of bridezillas and everybody else. I dare say what it is now. It'd be $80,000 for a relatively reined in, smaller, attendance wedding.
Scrape together a down payment and then take on a massive 30-year mortgage. For most ordinary people, this price is exceedingly high, not to mention the exorbitant future costs of raising a child. In addition to the immense economic pressure, another key factor is the divergence in views on marriage and family between unmarried young men and women. Over the past decade or so, feminist ideas have spread widely in China, significantly influencing many young women. At the same time, the educational attainment of young people in China has risen significantly. A large number of young people with higher education have developed their own views on marriage and family. In particular, young women no longer accept traditional notions of marriage and family, leading to a significant gap in perspectives between men and women on these matters. This inability to find a perfect match has had a direct and significant impact on the marriage rate among China's youth. To address this issue, the Chinese government has even introduced numerous policies aimed at mitigating the negative effects of these shifting attitudes. The current workplace environment in China is highly unfriendly to young people. Many industries are plagued by a culture of intense overtime. Just to keep a job, they have already sacrificed all their energy and time. When a person exhausts all their energy at work every day and doesn't even have the strength to speak after getting off work, you can hardly expect them to nurture a romantic relationship that requires a massive investment of time and effort. Romance requires time and
romance. I dare say there's much romance involved in marriage. I think romance happens before you get married. Romance happens at first 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, the honeymoon phase, as they call it. Yeah, he's saying people are too busy and too stressed and worried about money to relax and date. Yeah, but romance stuff definitely doesn't happen during marriage, right? That's a business affair. Anyone will tell you, oh, that shit drops straight off a cliff.
Sense of relaxation, but under the high load operation of young people today, Mere survival has already drained all their strength. Love has become an incredibly unaffordable luxury. The mindset of this generation of Chinese young people has undergone a massive shift. In the past, people felt that the purpose of life was to endure hardship, work hard.
But at least at the end, you got something out of it along that way. So I'll speak for locally. As I said, the sentiment is, why do all this stuff? Why work a certain way or strive for something that it's never going to eventuate? So you think you're going to work and persevere, and the social contract tells you that if you do all the right things, that in the past it was very possible you could have a home and have a good standard of life. People are working the average wage now and are barely struggling to be able to pay rent or stay in houses or even find a house. How can they even save for a house? And I'm not going to get overly political about that on this particular video, but you can just thank the current and previous governments for that, for the kerfuffle that we're in. And so it's more of a lack of losing hope to the point where it's about survival. It's about just existing apart, not about thinking about the future, being optimistic about the next generations. It's trying to exist in your current life, let alone thinking about raising a big family and propagating the human race into the future. You're trying to worry you're going to have a roof over your head. I see some pretty heartbreaking things. Like locally to me, I saw a family that is doing it rough. They had a tent. They have a car, they had a tent, and they had a few chairs out, and there's a little kid sitting there, with his dad on a couple of the camping chairs. And that's his life, that's his home. Very tough for some people. I know it's not a lot of people, but there are a lot of people doing it really rough, and you don't see that. I visited Brisbane recently, and I can't remember exactly. I think it's South Bank. I don't know. It's on one of the sides of the rivers. There's a tent city. There's literally a tent city. There's 50 tents in there. And there's a full community in there of people that are on the street. And they've got couches and everything outside and people are sitting around and all that. You think you're like somewhere down in Skid Row in Los Angeles. Like, this is happening here. Joint's cooked. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. I won't drag this on any more than it needs to be. I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to watch the rest of this video or watch it without me interrupting, the original video is in the video description. If you want to subscribe to the channel, that greatly helps out the channel's growth and reach, so I'd appreciate that. And chuck a comment if you enjoyed it. Thank you.